Goodness me. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you all so much for coming. Next year we'll probably need a bigger room. I hope you're all not too uncomfortable, and particular apologies to the people behind me who don't have a pleasant view at this moment in time. My name is Scott, and I'm lucky enough to be the president of this wonderful society. And I promise that I won't speak for any more than 3 minutes, because I know you're not here to see me. You're here to see these amazing speakers. We've been going since 1893, and this is our first all-woman panel. So that alone, I think... I just would like to go through very quickly what's coming up with DebSoc over the next week, if PowerPoint lets me. On Sunday is your chance to sign up. We'll be in the Great Hall. Please do come and see us, and if you enjoy this evening and you'd like to learn more about debating, meet some of the fabulous speakers that we have, attend some of our fabulous socials, and maybe learn to debate yourself. It would be fabulous to see you on Sunday. On Monday evening, we have our first debating workshop. It's just going to be a bit of fun, whether you've debated lots before or whether you're new to debating. Please come along. And if that wasn't enough to entice you, we've got some free champagne for all our members afterwards. And there's a lot of champagne because it's currently in my house. And I'm resisting temptation. On Wednesday, if you fancy playing some sport for DebSoc, whether it's DebSoc United football team or for the ladies we have netball, speak to Jonathan, who's my wonderful vice president, and he will sort you out with some football. And then on Friday, same time, same place, and hopefully just as busy, we have our next debate. And I'd just like to tell you what that is. This House believes Mrs. Thatcher was a global force for good. Let me tell you, you may have to bang again. Who knew Mrs. Thatcher caused quite such excitement? Just so you know who's on the panel, we have Alison Seaback MP. She's the MP for Plymouth, a Labour MP. I'm sure you'll love speaking to her and perhaps having a drink with her afterwards and securing your summer internship. We have Nigel Costley from the Trade Union Coalition. He's very high up, a very senior trade unionist, and he is a fab speaker, very passionate and a very important man. Then we have local celebrity and man with a moustache, Percy Prowse. He is a Conservative local councillor, but you will see him during your time at Exeter. He's got a penchant for Hawaiian shirts, and he does some fairly extraordinary speeches and will be well worth coming. And finally, a lady who probably needs no introduction, but I'm very excited to tell you who's coming to speak. She's been in the news a lot recently for her disagreements with Holly Willoughby over baby names. Katie Hopkins is coming to DebSoc. She may be even more divisive than Mrs. Thatcher, it seems. But, you know, I'm sure she'll be fabulous to watch speak. I'm sure you'll have all sorts of questions for her. Please do come along. That's my 3 minutes up. It's my turn to hand over to Ellie Binks, our chair. Please enjoy the debate, and thank you again so much for coming. Lovely to see you.
Feminist columnist from the Guardian and the Independent, and co-convener of the Consenting Adult Action Network. And alongside her, we have Zach James here, the bottom order and co-founder of Still Alongside. And
Right. I'd like to see the count of those who didn't vote for, against, or abstain, but let's see that. Right. My campaigning, very often, is for women's rights. It is also for the rights of individuals against government intervention in the bedroom. That means I'm not very dogmatic and sometimes ends up being a bit contradictory. I'm not a great fan of porn. If I do write erotic prose and poetry, which I'm told goes down well with female audiences, occasionally I think men find it arousing as well. Occasionally men find it arousing as well. I can't help that. Perhaps a large stick would be helpful. I'd like to make 3 basic points. Porn is not something wonderful, glamorous or uplifting. Porn is basically about sex, it's about arousal, it's about the exchange of bodily fluids. It's icky. I will concede instantly a lot of what the other side are going to say about the porn industry, about how people get abused in it, and about how some of the imagery is degrading to women, and about how it degrades some of the people who take part in it. No problem with that. I would say that the main problem facing women today is not porn. It is things like structural inequality, educational inequality, inequality in childcare. It is violence against women. And if you had to put a list down of what is a problem for women, it's not porn in the top 5, it's probably not even in the top 10. Zach will also pick up on the issue of why people want the government to put down more powers to restrict people even further when it comes to pornography. The government is very happy to take away our rights when they can. Please don't ask them to take away more. The UK porn industry, that works better, has a growing female-friendly section to it. I was talking only yesterday to somebody setting up a company about ethical porn, and destroy it, and you destroy one of the few chances for women to actually break what is a male model of sexuality in this country. I'd like very quickly to ask you 2 questions. Anyone here use Apple products, drink Coca-Cola? Primark, do you shop there? You shop at Asda? I was going to say because it's a university, I probably do score well there, but it's Exeter, maybe not. The first 2, Apple and Coke, are well known for poisoning their workforce. The others make use of labour in Bangladesh, where I think the monthly minimum wage is $43 a month. It's about 25 cents an hour if they work a 40-hour week. Now, full marks to anyone here who shops ethically, but I doubt that people do. And the question I'd put to you is, if you're not prepared to shop ethically for those, what is it about porn that makes it so different in ethical terms? Second, I suspect, I wonder, is there any male person in the audience eyeing up the pretty woman, pretty bloke next to him? Let's not be heterosexist about this. Are they wearing something that's revealing or provocative? Are you provoked by what they're wearing? Do you think that if somebody is wearing something that you consider provocative to be reason for carrying out sexual violence against that person? Is what somebody wears, however provocative, reason or excuse for raping that person? And I think the very serious answer is no, never. What a woman wears, how she is dressed, whether she is drunk, whether she is out late, is no reason ever for sexual violence. And that's an excuse used by men. The only cause for sexual violence and rape is rapists. And as with dress, so with porn. It's a fantasy. It's off to one side in a little box labelled fantasy. I didn't, have had some fantasy on the train down from Bristol about the guy opposite me pinning me down and ripping off my knickers and treating me very roughly. No, I didn't have that fantasy, but even if I did, it's not real. It's no more real than Jason Statham or Vin Diesel going around with plausibly large weapons, killing people, being an invitation to murder people. It's not, and it's not an excuse for that either. Government stuff I will leave to Zach, and as we're slight on time, I'd like to conclude by saying that there's a false dichotomy that is likely to be offered to you tonight. On the one hand, a sort of sex negative, which is associated with a particular older form of feminism. On the other, a sex positive, everything in the garden is rosy, let's say that all sex is fine. No, it's not. Sex negative denies the fact that many women use porn, take pleasure out of it, and it's a way for women to develop, to evolve a sexuality that is free of male imposition. That is why we mustn't destroy the porn industry in this country, because in this country, perhaps unlike in the States, we have a porn industry that is uniquely female-friendly, and therefore we should support it. The porn industry in the UK provides a good service. Support this motion.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're here today to tell you the truth about porn, and we're here to tell you why porn doesn't provide a good public service, and for that matter, why porn, the word, should not even be connected with the word good or public service. Because what we're about to tell you is going to move your heart, and it's absolutely going to make you sick. So keep that in mind. We don't get paid to fight porn. We don't get a paycheck to do that. I don't take donations. I spent several $1,000s to come across the pond to come talk to you guys about this. And that's because I've been affected by porn. I care about you guys and your relationships, and that's why I'm here today, because I'm trying to save your relationships, your marriages, and your lives from destruction. And you have to know that that's why Shelley and I are here today, is for you. I wanted to tell you about a little girl. There once was this little girl, and she absolutely loved this little boy to death, and she prayed for so many years, and she said, I wish I could just be with that little boy. They grew up together. They loved each other. Eventually, one day, they did, and her prayers came true. And it was marvelous. She was so excited. And they went ahead and went with the relationship, and once the relationship started, the little boy ended up pulling away. He became somebody different. He became angry. He became sad. He was on the internet all the time, and finally one day he came to the little girl and he said, I don't love you anymore. And this is the story of 7,000 women who are the members of Girls Against Porn and Human Trafficking all over the world, ladies and gentlemen. I have 58 pages from 7 years of my running of the organization. These are the women whose lives have been destroyed by this, their marriages, their children. Here, for instance, if you don't believe me in my story, here's one woman. She says, I lost my husband, marriage, and my dreams of our life together to his addiction to porn. The hurt that left behind, the feeling is indescribable. That pain when you lose somebody to a porn addiction, ladies and gentlemen, it's indescribable. It's always with you in your heart. Here's another one, for instance. This woman has sex with over 10 men at one time, sometimes. And she was in a relationship, and she said the one that was worst in bed was the one who watches porn. Kills your intimacy, ladies and gentlemen. Men, if you are watching porn, you're going to have problems in your sex life. It's proven. And listen to the stories that we're going to tell you. She said it killed our sex life and the relationship ultimately. Women, never again will I date a man who watches porn. What a loser. It's all here, 58 pages of it, ladies. They're trying to tell us that, and men, that gentlemen are the people who we need to have on this planet, that respect women and that fight for women and that don't condone this industry led by the patriarchy, as our friends in the feminist world would call it. This is all because of the Department of Justice, and I'm so sorry that we export pornography to you. On behalf of my country, I sincerely apologize. It breaks my heart. I wish that we could export things that are good to you guys. These are the laws against pornography in the United States. Title 18 of our U.S. Code. The Department of Justice is supposed to enforce all of these laws, and they don't. It bans mailing indecent materials on cable, via the internet, in all different realms. I mean, even in broadcast and TV. Pornography is illegal in the U.S., but the porn industry certainly doesn't tell you that, do they? They say, oh, Larry Flint won the free speech case, and I'll get into that a little bit. But the Supreme Court in Miller versus California, Google it. I know you guys all know Google, right? 1973, the Supreme Court ruled that obscene materials are not protected by the First Amendment. This has been upheld time and time again. What the pornography industry is telling you, that they're protected by the First Amendment, is not the case, ladies and gentlemen, and believe that. When I was protesting in front of the Department of Justice to get these laws enforced, I met a couple, and I said, why are you there protesting the laws? What's your purpose? And they said, we lost one of our best friends. And his life was destroyed. He killed himself because of his addiction. So he left 5 children and a wife there without a father now. There are so many things to tell you all, and what I want to tell you is this is what the porn industry promotes to you guys. If you ever have seen a Hustler magazine, Chester the molester, he raped his own daughter. He molested her. And what did he say about it? His name was Dwayne Twinsley. You can't write this stuff all the time if you don't experience it. That's what they do. That's what porn addicts progressively do. They act out on their victims. Sir Walter Scott is an ancestor of mine. I was walking in England one day, in Edinburgh one day, and I have to read you his last deathbed quote. He said, "My dear, be a good man, be virtuous, be religious, be a good man. Nothing else will give you any comfort when you come to lie here." And that's the truth. Bringing virtue, bringing the world as we know it to life. This is what addiction does to your brain, ladies and gentlemen. Porn involves trafficking, and it's servicing 20 to 30 little girls a day when porn and trafficking. It's all connected. So I ask you to consider that and help us save these little girls, please.
Thank you. We now welcome Zach James here.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me at the back? You're okay? Lovely, marvellous, thanks. My name is Zach Jane Keir. I am an erotic writer. I'm a member of Feminists Against Censorship. I'm afraid somebody Googled me before the evening and only got slightly out-of-date information. I did used to run the Guild, but that was some years ago. I also worked for adult magazines and in adult video making quite some time. Anyway, does porn provide a good public service? Well, it certainly provides a useful public function, as we have seen and probably going to see more of. What porn does is it's a scapegoat. It's a useful tool for governments and for people who don't have women's best interests at heart, don't have anyone's freedom at heart. Right now, the government's busy trying to ban extreme porn on the internet, which is something that's useful for them on several levels. Firstly, it's a way of trying to convince us that they actually care about women's rights. It's going to put you off and distract you from the fact that their austerity measures are doing far more harm to women than to men. They are disproportionately affecting women. We've got the bedroom tax, making people lose their homes. We've got the cutbacks in health services, public sector work, which is more staffed by women than men. We've got the cutting of funding for domestic violence shelters and rape crisis lines and for women's health clinics. So never mind about that. They really do care about women because they're trying to ban porn. It also takes your mind off things like whether or not to go to war in Syria if we can be having a big fight about what images you can and can't look at on the internet. Another way in which porn provides a useful scapegoat is once you start convincing people that there are some images, some acts and some thoughts that are too horrible for anyone else to see, you can say that censorship is a good idea. You know, we need to stop you seeing stuff for your own protection because it might upset you, it might hurt you, it might make you avoid heterosexual monogamy, which, you know, that'd be a really, really shocking thing. Not that everybody's into heterosexual monogamy, of course. Compulsory heterosexual monogamy is a source of quite severe social harm, actually. What else have we got? Censorship is always bad. It's never any good. Censorship is always used by the powerful against the powerless. Any form of censorship is always going to do harm to the weaker, to the marginalised, to the minorities. And let's not forget that the single biggest threat to women's rights is and always will be religion. Imaginary friends saying women can't do this, women can't do that, will hurt men's feelings. Oh, my imaginary friend says you mustn't do it. Yeah, that's no good. Porn also gets blamed for a lot of harms that are actually to do with the wider culture, what you could call a patriarchal capitalist society. You could say that mainstream culture is these days something of a culture of cruelty, and then wonder why some porn is a bit unsubtle and a bit uncaring towards the roles it portrays. We've got a culture that currently thinks entertainment is putting mentally vulnerable people on TV, pushing them till they break and laughing at them. Look at Big Brother and the X Factor. And when it comes to giving women a poor image about their bodies and feeling bad about themselves, look at the average celebrity magazine. Oh, she's gained weight. Oh, she's lost weight. She's got cellulite. She's got a zit. She's pregnant. She's not pregnant. She should be pregnant. She shouldn't be pregnant. Do you not dress very well? Doesn't help. The thing is, there is a lot of good porn out there, challenging porn, well-made porn. The biggest problem with porn, the one in which I think the whole panel agree is a serious issue with porn, is the exploitation of porn performers, the exploitation of the workforce. Again, that's a problem that is not exclusive to porn. Workers get exploited, they get ripped off, they get ill-treated, they get put in danger. There are various industries that risk their workers. The problem of trafficking is not exclusive to the porn industry. The best way to help porn provide a good public service is not to ban it, it's to support the independent porn, the transgressive, the feminist-friendly, the LGBT, the stuff that says there's more to sex than PIV, penis in vagina fucking, because there's a lot more to sex than that. There's a lot of safer ways to have sex and get off. And there's more to life than compulsory heterosexual monogamy. There are many ways to conduct your relationship. And the answer to a bad form of media, or to a message that you think is wrong, is not to ban it, it's to make a counter message, to make more good stuff. And finally, to conclude, because I think I've only got a few seconds to go, let's not forget that there is one good social function that porn does provide, and that is when you look at some, you get a wank, a sandwich, and a good night's sleep. So I urge you to support the motion.
Can you hear me? All right, wonderful. Great. I am so honored to be here. First of all, to tell you I came all the way from California. I brought the sun with me today, so you should be happy about that. I really am enjoying London, so thank you so much for having me, Mr. Chairman, or Ms. Chairman, and Mr. Chairman over there, and ladies and gentlemen. The proposition would have you believe that all other industries exploit women like porn does, or that pornography is harmless, it doesn't hurt anyone, or that we should have free speech and we should be able to have our pornography. But what I want to show you is, because I am on the panel and the only one that was there, what really happens in the porn industry. Let me give you a quick background. I represent the world's largest porn industry, which is in California, where 90% of the world's adult content is produced. I worked for them. The porn that you download is pretty much from the San Fernando Valley, right by where I live. And what I want you to know is that the porn industry definitely exploits, hurts women, as it is a totally illegal industry. Most of the movies are filmed in private locations, dominated by males with maybe three 18, 19-year-old, 20-year-old girls on the set with maybe 6 to 8 males, force them to do sex acts they don't agree to. I was raped. I was forced to do sex acts I didn't agree to, and if I didn't do them, I was threatened that I wouldn't get paid, or worse, that they would hurt me and my daughter. I was a single mother who had no other options. After about 30 movies and thinking I didn't have any other options, I caught 2 sexually transmitted diseases. Because the porn industry lied to me and said, you will be kept safe. Don't worry, we test every 30 days. Well, that test is pretty unreliable after about the second day when you go out and prostitute yourself. You don't think porn stars are prostitutes? We make a lot more money with a porn star name prostituting ourselves in 2 hours than what we would make in 8 hours on the set, being subjected to bodily fluids, feces, blood, urine, vaginal, semen, and fluid. Everything. Would that be illegal in a hospital? Even here in the UK. Is it illegal for bodily fluids to touch skin here in the UK? Am I missing something? In the United States, it's illegal for bodily fluids to touch skin, and yet it happens every day in the porn industry. In fact, right now, within the last 2 weeks, we had 5 HIV infections, an outbreak in the world's largest porn industry. Every time you click porn, you contribute to that. You contribute to people like me. You make the demand on us. The pornographers, they monitor you online. They see your habits. What turns you on when you first looked at porn, 6 months later, it doesn't even shock you anymore. You want harder stuff, grosser stuff, get a little bit isolated. See, I know, I do this all the time. You know deep in your hearts, this isn't for you, that you're made for something better than this. You're made to be a champion. I'm sorry, but I will not apologize. I am a Christian, and I believe, God, that all of you are made in God's image, and that you are made beautifully, and every single one of you here is different. You all have different fingerprints, and that you have a choice to make if you're going to help me champion this cause, or if you're going to contribute. And I'm not the only one. I have all these porn stars. Oh, by the way, I rescued them out now. God made me go back. Thank you very much. Let me tell you a few of the pornographers' quotes. Where else but in porn can you see a guy who just met a girl that day crack her around and choke her out? Brandon Iron, porn producer. What about John Staglione? He's really famous. It was a strong male-dominant thing with women being pushed to their limit. It looks like violence, but it's not. I mean, pleasure and pain are the same thing, right? I don't know about you, but I did not enjoy being gangbanged. I was involved in double penetration. I was on drugs and alcohol. Who do you think gave it to me? I was in my 20s. But you know what? God had a better plan for my life. And I'm here because of that plan to tell you, please stop contributing to this industry. That you really are made for greater things. And porn, I'll be real honest, I've been married to Mr. Wonderful. He rescued me out of porn. And you'll get to meet him tonight at the pub. I'm really excited. He was a pastor's son that rescued a porn star. Great story. I love to share it with you guys. But he showed me that I was made for something better than porn. And you know what? 18 years later, I am made for better things than porn. And so are you. And I really hope that you will look at all the evidence and understand that these women in porn do not want to be there. I never even knew I could go to college. I have a doctorate now. Who would have thought? I really didn't know. I was like, oh no, I can only do porn, open my legs, spread my legs, all these sex acts. I didn't agree to any of these. I don't want this for my life. No little girl raised her hands at 5 years old. I can't wait to be a porn star. Come on. Jenna Jameson just lost her kids. Stormy Daniels, you understand? So anyways, I hope that you will agree with us that pornography does not do a good public service, and that you and I are made for greater things. God bless you.
Isn't all bad, or is not the only thing that's bad in the world, but never seems to provide any argument for why it's a good public service. So I wonder if you'd like to expand on that point.
It enables people to explore their sexuality, liberate themselves perhaps from narrow superstitious ideas of women always being passive in sexuality. It supports diversity, teaches people that they're not alone, and can comfort people if they are lonely. That's what it should do at its best.
Yes, it's a difficult issue because I wouldn't necessarily have worked with that question in the first place. Something was said earlier on about porn addicts having to act out. Now, if you're saying, does it provide a good public service? Well, something like half of men in this country make use of porn. Something like a quarter of women make use of porn. So it's doing something, and it's doing something perhaps that a large number of people consider to be positive. And therefore, to a large degree, what we're doing is working with some of the myths put up about how it's uniquely bad.
Scruton, one of your British scholars who I absolutely love, and Princeton, and he said porn addicts in the social cost of pornography, which is a book that came out listing every single thing. You can Google it. An academic study that was done from doctors, psychologists, and everything. Lots of great research in there. He said, porn addicts, they risk the loss of love in a world where only love brings true happiness, right? Because they're replacing love and an intimacy with lust. When you replace love with lust, you lose any type of intimacy that ever was there. Men, when you're watching porn, not to assume, I'm sure some of you we know do. And so when if you are having sex with your girlfriend or whatever, if that's the case, which I hope you aren't before marriage, but sorry, we're Christian. You're going to have problems in your sex life. I mean, it's documented. So what I'm telling you is it does not, it brings men into an isolated place. When I told you about the story of the little girl, that was my story. I was the little girl. So the boy that I grew up with and who wanted to marry and planned to isolated himself, completely detached from the world. This is what a porn addiction does. I experienced it. And if you look at all these blogs from all the women, they will tell you how their husbands are completely moving away from them. They leave the families. They even commit suicide. So you want to tell me that it does a good public service and it's empowering women? Unbelievable. It doesn't. It's destroying.
I have nothing to say. I want to go to a better question.
I was basically wondering whether you'd be against porn then in kind of small quantities, if it's kind of regulated, so to avoid all the exploitation. Would you be against it then, or is it completely no against porn?
Sorry, so just to repeat your question here. I'm sorry, just to repeat your question in case nobody heard you. You said if it was allowed in different increments, then would we be for it then?
Yeah, if it was in smaller quantities, like kind of alcohol, excessive alcohol is harmful, so excessive porn would be harmful.
Well, I think my first, anything with an addiction, like I showed you a brain scan, this is what a brain on any addiction looks like. So it's harder to break a porn addiction than a cocaine addiction. No matter how much you're viewing it, it's going to do something to you. Even Ted Bundy, he started out with softcore porn in Playboy magazines, right? Was raised in a Christian home, perfect family, everything was kosher. He ended up killing 50 women. So if you do brain scan studies, if you know anything about neurology, you know that the progression of porn from dopamine and serotonin, you keep having to act out. It doesn't matter how much is readily available, it still is going to be doing damage. And there's tons of research with that too that we could go on and on for hours about.
Yeah, sorry, Ted Bundy was raised in a very abusive home with a grandfather who was incredibly violent. He was stabbing his own bed with butcher's knives when he was a kid and torturing small animals. So this was a child who was very, very messed up by abuse in the home, way before he ever saw any pornography, and there's no actual record that he did. He just claimed he did when he thought it would get him off the death sentence. Thank you.
Wait a minute. Sorry. Being that I was in the... No, I'm still out. I need a reply. Let me tell you about porn addiction versus alcohol addiction, drug addiction. I was a meth addict, alcoholic, among many other addictions. And when it came to porn, I was also a sex addict. Obviously, I was in porn, and I thought that was the only way that men valued me is if I gave them sex. So the only thing, when I went through recovery, I could drop the drugs, drop the alcohol, but I couldn't get those images out of my mind. I was like crack cocaine in the mind. You have no idea the images, and I know some of you in here are viewing porn, those images just haunt you, no matter what you do. And it took years, 8 years of rehab for me to finally get those images where they didn't control me, they didn't haunt me, and get on my mind. I'm sitting there trying to be a good mom, I'm like, no, I'm in rehab. All of a sudden it's like, boom, here's your gangbang scene with 20 guys. Boom, here's your scene with like 5 guys. Boom, there's your scene where you're like abusing that woman. It was overwhelming. It was uncontrollable. So porn is a whole different beast than any other addiction, for sure.
Hi, right. Yes, as someone who does know a little bit about neuroscience, if you check out my degree, you'll see why. One of the effects of continual exposure to things, sometimes is for it to continue, sometimes it's exhaustion. In other words, it goes away. What the person in the audience said, which is a very, very valid point, is that the argument of the opposition is very much an argument from the worst. 50% of men in this audience presumably use porn. How many of them are addicted? Do you want to put your hands up? Basically, and the other thing, can we just take off the table now all talk of trafficking? As far as I'm concerned, and I suspect as far as Zach is concerned, trafficking is evil, it is unlawful, it should be stopped and banned. End of debate. It doesn't cover just porn. In fact, far more people are trafficked for non-porn uses than for porn in this country. And it wasn't 12 porn stars who died after being trafficked in this country off Morecambe Bay. It was 12 cockle pickers. Trafficking is evil. It has nothing to do with this debate.
Sorry, I just want to do a fact check because I know James Dobson, who did the last interview with Ted Bundy. He's a friend of mine. So he did the very last interview that was granted, and he said in his own words that he came from a good Christian home. What are the last words that he said before he died? And he wanted to get that known. It's a fact.
Okay, she mentioned something about porn stars died. Let me tell you about how many porn stars died in the last 10 years. 205. And the majority of those from AIDS, suicide, drugs, and suicide. No other industry, not even the music industry, has killed more people due to those reasons, AIDS, suicide, and drugs, than any other industry. In fact, just a few weeks ago, someone died from a drug overdose. And remember, in the last week, I went to Canada, and there was 2 HIV infections. I come back this week to England, and there's 3 more HIV infections. 205 people out of about 2,000 workers. Think about that, in 10 years. Even the music industry doesn't kill more people due to AIDS, suicide, drugs, and homicide.
Okay, time to move on to the next question. Boy at the back will be...
Another question for the proposition. Do you not believe that porn normalises abusive and unloving idea of human relationships that are unhealthy, unrealistic, and they don't treat women with respect they deserve?
I'm going to need this on. Not half as much as religion does. There is a massive threat to women's freedom from both fundamentalist Islam and the American religious right, who seem to be more and more intent on reducing women to the status of breeding animals. It's the American religious right saying things like women if they only get properly raped, they can't get pregnant, and all this insane nonsense, turning women into walking incubators. I think that's a far more dangerous prospect for women than a lot of people enjoying consensual sex in front of a video camera.
I don't disagree with you, but
Well, maybe we showed up to the wrong debate. I mean, this isn't the religion debate, is it? Last time I checked.
By the way, I'm a Christian, but I do believe there is a religion called false Christianity, and I'm not part of it. So if you guys are talking, you need to define what religion you're talking about.
And I'm just going to tell you one thing, too, is that God saved, and that's our personal belief. It isn't the belief. Even feminists, we work with feminist groups who are anti-religion. Gail Dines is one of our good friends. She avidly is against religion, but she hates pornography. I mean, because she knows the detriments of it. And even though God saved Shelley and I, we can all come together from the liberal, from the left, from the middle, whatever you want to call it, on this issue.
I'm sorry, I really had trouble hearing all of what you were saying because you were crackling. But, yeah, in terms of religion, basically any belief in an imaginary friend is kind of irrelevant.
sorry, but here's the deal. I'm just going to be real with you guys. I was there, and they weren't, okay?
This is a question to both sides, really. Aside from porn users, what do you think is stopping the porn industry being brought down? Bad. What do you think is stopping the porn industry being brought down, whether or not you think it's a good thing?
Apathetic people. That's why. But actually, we are taking the porn industry down in California. It's really cool. Yeah, Penthouses just went bankrupt the other day. And then I rescue women out of porn the last 7 years, and I have at least 30 freshly recovering ex-porn stars, all with STDs, who love to go to court and go to Congress. We testify in Congress, California State Capitol, Los Angeles Board of Supervisors, LA Public Health, Los Angeles. I could go on. And so we testified, and just last year, Los Angeles voted it is definitely mandatory to have condoms in porn. And so now the porn industry is fighting, trying to appeal it, but it's already the law. You can't have bodily flesh touch skin. You just can't do that. If you're here at school right now and you ejaculate on the girl next to you, you have to, I'm sorry, I'm just being real with you. You have to actually go to your health department and claim that exposure. You can't just bleed on somebody. Would you like me to bleed on you right now? Well, how much more in a workplace? It's illegal in a California workplace. I don't care if it's consenting adults. It's consenting adults in a California workplace or any workplace. It's always me. It's consenting adults, and you have to follow the workplace laws. Oh, there it is.
I'm not totally sure whether we're debating porn in general or the UK or the US, and just popping back to that statistic about 205 porn stars dying, I presume is that the US, or where is that?
Say that again?
Where are the 205 porn stars who died?
It's the porn capital of the world, where we make 90% of the adult content. That's where they die. Where you guys watch.
Nope, I certainly don't. But anyway. I mean, I was actually talking about trafficking, and if I just throw one figure in, which will put a little, to take the smile off the face of those wearing Primark, the textile factory that collapsed in Bangladesh earlier this year, 1,000 died, 2,500 injured. We've got to get...
How many people?
Probably out of about 4,000 in the factory. In other words, most of them.
Due to AIDS, suicide, and homicide?
No, but if I'm...
Okay,
no, excuse me, but if I'm dead, I'm not totally sure if I'm dead whether I care that it was because of AIDS or because it was to make somebody else cheap shoes. Right. The question quite simply was, why is the porn industry not being brought down? I very much doubt it can be in this country, and the reason it can't is because it is illegal, or it's as illegal as it is in the States. It is illegal to produce an obscenity, it's illegal to produce an indecency. The problem is that if you look at the history of the Obscene Publications Act, the Crown Prosecution Service brings about 80 cases a year now, because no jury seems prepared to convict on almost anything. So go out and ask the public why they don't convict. And if you look at the extreme porn law, it doesn't convict extreme porn. It has almost infinite problems convicting on extreme porns. It basically stops pictures of people shagging dogs. It's been used against one person, more or less brought them to suicide for a CGI picture, and it's been used by the Met to persecute a gay barrister who questioned Met corruption. The law in this country doesn't seem to work, so where do you go from there?
I kind of told you that these are the laws against pornography. One of the reasons why things aren't being done about it, too, is the U.S., which, again, 90% of the porn industry is based in San Fernando Valley, someplace where Shelley and I live. So the Department of Justice is not enforcing these laws because they're in bed with the porn industry. So this is why we have debates at the Department of Justice. Well, if you guys did your research, you would know that Obama accepted campaign money from the porn industry. It's proven. And they try to hide it. So when you have your politicians and the people in law enforcement who are supposed to enforce it and they're not, when Eric Holder, the Attorney General, the head of the Department of Justice who is supposed to go after the pornographers, he said, they asked him, they said, do you think that porn is connected to trafficking or domestic violence or violence against women? And he says, well, I don't know. I mean, this is the guy who's leading the Department of Justice. So that is why the porn industry is thriving. And the porn industry has duped you all because they make you believe that they're protected by the First Amendment when they're not.
Sorry.
Larry Flint did not win that case on the First Amendment. My uncle was the assistant law dean of Liberty University, who's Jerry Falwell's university, and he won the right to public parody of a public figure only in the legal terms. But they've duped everybody into believing that they won a First Amendment.
Very quick. The British Crown Prosecution Service is taking money from American porn barons. As a journalist, I'd like to see the evidence, please.
Okay, so for our next question, we'll have someone who I probably can't see, but that arm protruding from behind the computer.
This is in connection to human trafficking. Sorry, I know you wanted to put that away, but do you not think that the fact that 80% of the people who are trafficked into the sex industry, does that have nothing to do with porn?
Where are you getting that figure from? That is not the figure given out by ACPO.
I've just done a project, so it's from UNICEF, it's from all kinds of trafficking things, it's from but they are.
I think the problem with trafficking, I mean, this could get to be a very, very academic debate. The figure that I'm basing on is the figure given by the British Association of Chief Police Officers, who one assumes know something. Figures are bandied about left, right and centre on trafficking, and some of them are thoroughly flawed. I don't know the one that you're talking about. ACPO do not reckon that the majority of people trafficked to the sex trade.
Hello. Since my master's degree is in the ties between pornography and human trafficking for 2 years, I started a new organization called the Gentleman's Posse to rescue those little girls, because the demand, and this is what I tell all the human trafficking organizations in the U.S., they're frustrated. I've talked to all of them, and they say, why can't we do anything, Tiffany? We're not getting enough of the girls out. I said, you're not tackling the demand. If you are whacking at a tree and you're only getting rid of the leaves and the top branches, pull it out by the root. Remove it. You don't have people traveling to Southeast Asia just for the fun of it. Why do you think they do that? It's been proven in 2 years worth of studies. That's all the cases I would come across, is even American professors traveling over to Southeast Asia. Why are they doing that? Because they're pornography addicts. They would even bring sex toys there and do it to 3-year-old little girls as young as 3 and even 6 months over there. I mean, this is what the statistics are telling us. This little girl was servicing 20 to 30 porn addicts a day. What are the 2 words she knows? Yum, yum, and boom, boom. Oral sex and regular sex. You bet your bottom dollar that the porn industry isn't connected to, that it is connected to trafficking. It's a demand.
Not only is it connected, it is trafficking. And I want to define what sex trafficking is so you guys really understand. It's defined by the federal law as recruiting, enticing, harboring, transporting, providing, or obtaining either an adult by commercial sex, by force, fraud, or coercion. Every porn star has been coerced. Every porn star has been fraudulent. Think about this. They have the Porn Star Clinic, which we did close down a couple of years ago. But we used to go to the Porn Star Clinic, and the porn star doctor, Dr. Sharon Mitchell, which you can see on my YouTube, she actually has a video where she says, we keep the adult entertainment industry safe. Really? Then why did the LA Public Health Department, am I holding it wrong? Is that better? Okay. Why did the Los Angeles Public Health Department just come up with, in the last, since 2003, there's been 28 cases of HIV, most unpublicized, 2,396 cases of chlamydia, 1,389 cases of gonorrhea, among a pool of about 2,000 people 75% of adult performers are female, and females, 70% of females are the ones who have most of the infections. Repeat infections are at 20%, much higher than the general public. And this is a small little area in Los Angeles, and all these sexually diseased people, which you're viewing, which I love when people tell me, oh, we want to get marital advice. I'm like, why do you want to get marital advice from people who aren't married, who have sexual disease and mentally ill? That's dumb.
Yeah.
And you're not dumb.
Yeah. Okay, now we want to ladies at the back.
Sorry, thank you. I'd just like to challenge Zach on something you said, that government is trying to ban porn. This is not actually correct, because the government is actually giving people a chance to protect their children from pornography. So actually what the government is introducing not a law, it's all self-regulatory, that the internet service providers will block pornography, but you just tick a box to say if you're over 18 if you would like to receive it. So it's not censorship, and there's no banning. It's merely simply to protect.
It's outright nonsense is what it is. There are going to be people with probably doing a first-year computer science who will be able to tell you how completely implausible the government proposal is. It just isn't going to work, but it's making them act like they're being seen to do something. As I say, it's technologically implausible, it's arrant nonsense, and it's also, if they were, the government is basically, like all governments, gagging to get their hands on control of the internet to suppress what people can communicate to one another. Blaming porn is just an excuse. It's a load of old nonsense, this opt-in, opt-out stuff. Not possible.
Right, but then why is every country, Palestine in the last couple of weeks, planning to block porn then? Why? Why are the governments, why are we helping the Jordanians try to block it? Why is Iceland? You have countries that this is their solution because they are tired of the crap that we export to them. And so are we. So they're having their governments try to do whatever they can. And if you want to say that it's an issue of blocking too much, well, it's better to block too much than nothing at all and hurt children. And the child abuse. Let's protect the kids. Let's not stand up for the patriarchy of the porn industry, which is violating them. Do what you can.
Part of the problem is that people are mixing up two issues. One is about blocking pornography, some of which is lawful and some of which is unlawful, and some of it is about putting on controls for children. Part of the really big problem is that we are importing overseas values, attitudes and so on from here. And whilst I respect that the Americans have a culture of their own, it is not British culture. Let me give one instance for that: the American obsession with nudity itself being pornographic, the idea that breastfeeding is pornographic. And what we appear to have brought in is a series of blocks and controls that import standards of moderation that are based in the American Midwest and in the subcontinent of India. And if you look at what is actually being blocked, it's not stuff that's just hurting children. I was having a debate. Why I was having this debate, you can guess for your own reason, with a friend of mine in a shopping centre about the merits of Richard Armitage versus Jason Statham. And we went online looking for a shirtless picture of Jason Statham and a shirtless picture of Richard Armitage. Both blocked, both banned, presumably pornographic. Thank you.
I like this whole blocking porn thing for one simple reason. The customer of the account actually has to let the ISP know, hey, I want my porn, and that, guess what? His spouse gets to know, or her spouse gets to know too. I just think that's fair. I think that the hiding alone is wonderful. First of all, protects the children, and also married couples are on the same page. You know what I'm saying?
Film, or are you talking only about a specific section of sex films that, are all across the internet?
Okay, so what I told you before and what you guys probably can't see is when we're talking about 90%, that's why we're bringing in the Department of Justice. And Title 18 of the U.S. Code, Chapter 71, Section 1460 through 1470, it clearly defines obscene material, whether it's broadcasted, whether it's sent through the internet, whether it's distributed via mail. So this is why we brought this up in the first place. Since 90% of porn is produced in the U.S., we should be going by a lot of their laws. And then you guys do have the similar obscenity laws, but they're not being enforced also. You have more extreme porn definitions than we do, but ours goes by a three-pronged test. If it isn't considered literary or for artistic value, so some may consider porn that could be artistic or for literary value. If it doesn't define those three in what we call the Miller test, when it's taken to court for prosecution, that's, or if it is against what anybody would deem as against community standards, then it is illegal content. If the jury does not find that it would be prudent to the community interest and that they all deem it as obscene, then they usually find it obscene.
Yeah, it's often a problem when discussing pornography is that everybody's got a different definition. It's like the old difference between pornography and erotica. Erotica is what we educated types like. Porn is what the dirty old bastard across the road likes. So throughout the course of the evening, some of you are going to be thinking of porn as the terrible, scary, horrible, bannable stuff, whereas quite happily watching some sexually explicit material that entertains you at home. So there's never been quite a proper working definition.
I want to talk about that violence now that you brought it up. Actually, there was a study done, a recent analysis of 50 best-selling adult videos revealed that 94% of aggressive acts were committed against women. Over 3,000 verbal over physically aggressive acts were observed. 48% of the 304 scenes analyzed contained verbal aggression, while more than 88% contained physical aggression against women. 72% of aggressive acts were perpetrated by men. Women were significantly more likely to be spanked, choked, and gagged than men. I can personally witness that. Women were verbally insulted or referred to in terms like cunt, bitch, whore, slut about 534 times, whereas men rarely experienced verbal assaults, only like in 65 instances. Obviously, porn is all about violence against women.
Yeah, I think it is worth trying to define what we are talking about. That would help. Unlike Zach, the definitions I came across was erotic is using a feather, whereas porn is using the whole chicken. All I would say is, because this started out with a discussion about blocking, I was trying to find, it's probably a bit cheating, but I wrote a piece about this a few months back, and I looked at all the words and so on that were blocked by online filters. Nude, naked, pornography, fetish. Triple X is blocked, but quadruple X isn't, I think, because one's a beer. It's quite bizarre. And what certainly has happened with the imposition of filters, because I work very much in the LGBT sphere, is a lot of young people are now not getting advice, they're not getting support, because things are being blocked. Over-blocking has consequences, and although it sounds like better to block too much than too little, you need to show the specific harm being done before you do that.
No, the idea of encouraging women to produce more porn is for porn to be more diverse in the messages it conveys, which it already is. I mean, people forget, if they haven't watched very much porn, or if they've only done the most basic service, that there's a lot of sexually explicit entertainment material out there, not all of which, by a long way, is in any way negative towards women. Some of it doesn't feature any women at all. Some of it's gay male porn. There's LGBT porn. There's stuff made by women for women's pleasure. There's a lot out there. The answer to what you perceive as a negative medium sending negative messages is not banning, it's making more and better stuff.
Know that the women that make that feminist porn, their agent also has them doing something violent. So whether you're watching the feminist porn, those girls are still doing violent porn as well. I know. I did feminist porn. And then, of course, I did violent porn. It's where the money is. It's all about the money. That's why those girls are there. They're not there because they love to make porn. We're there because we want to make money, and we don't feel there's any other options. So if you see a girl doing feminist porn, just know that the next day she's doing a gangbang.
Can I just add something really quickly? I think you've asked the exact question, so I was just sitting here asking myself. So we've given you the stats. We've told you my life story, how my relationship was destroyed. Shelley's told you firsthand experience of the porn industry. We've told you all the bad things. Like, I still can't think of one good thing that our opposition has said. Where is it? I mean, our lives were destroyed by it. And you want to, where's the equality? I mean, in that, I think the best thing to do in this case is just to call us like the true feminists, because we're standing up for little girls. Shelley's delivering the porn addicts and the people who use porn stars, and I rescue little girls. I mean, maybe we should be called the true feminists.
How can a true feminist advocate for an industry that mostly damages women and that most of those movies are derogatory for women? When a woman tells me she's watching porn, I go, what are you watching? She goes, well, her face got gagged, she got and they're calling her every other name under the sun, but I enjoy porn. I'm like, you're not a true feminist. You're worse than a mother who aborts her child.
I think I'm absolutely not going to deny that porn is riddled with misogyny. Society is riddled with misogyny. I've been working with various groups which are about victim blaming and violence against women, and it is there in virtually every aspect of society. So, yes, porn has got some appalling aspects to it. So does most of society, and it's this continual going back to the worst. If we went back to the worst of the textile trade, if we went back to those 1,000 people dying in Bangladesh, we would close it down. The point is that in almost every single other aspect of our living, we say this is bad, this is misogynistic, let's make it better. Only in the porn industry do we say, let's close the whole thing down. Let me just pick up on one other thing. I'm not going to take anything from the other side about saving little girls. I work very closely with the Internet Watch Foundation. I am a very, very firm advocate of the work that they do. And trying again to equate the porn industry with paedophilia, no. There are something like 40 to 50,000 users of paedophile sites and images in this country. If you count the men and the women, there's something like 12 million users of porn in this country. They are two very different amounts. If you look at the amount of prosecutions and the amount of convictions for porn in this country, it is a very, very low number indeed. If you look at the number of convictions for child abuse and child abuse material, it is something like 10 to 20 times as many. We are serious about clamping down on abuse of children, and if there is abuse of children, then I want it stopped. But please don't bring in that into this debate, because that is a separate debate, and I'm not in any way ever going to advocate the abuse of children.
No, I wasn't going to. What I was going to say is that there are many things that children may see which may cause them distress, whether that's looking on the internet or in their daily lives. You know, you can see a terrible car accident and be traumatised by it, or you can see a horror film or a news story that causes you considerable distress as a child. It's not the seeing, it's the how it's dealt with afterwards. If you've been taught that looking at porn is a terrible, dirty, wicked thing that you'll be punished for, you're more likely to find it upsetting than if you can say to your parents, I saw something strange and it upset me, and the parents go, well, that wasn't very good, that wasn't very nice, that is not what sex is about, there are other things to look at later when you're grown up. It's how you deal with things afterwards. I mean, you cannot protect a child from ever seeing anything that is upsetting, because life has its upsetting things in the normal run of life. Accidents, emergencies, family bereavements, things like that. You need to be able to deal with the bad things. And, yeah, I mean, there's worse things that can happen to a kid than seeing a bit of fuck and suck, to be honest.
I'm a pretty frank person, you probably learned tonight, and I'm appalled that the proposition is not concerned with blocking access to pornography for children. I think it's a great thing that Prime Minister is blocking porn. It shows he cares about the children, and that we should too. And so what? So they have to let the company know, yeah, I want my porn. You do that on television when you buy like a channel or buy Playboy or something. Why can't we do that on the internet? I don't think it's worth helping our children, especially when statistics show that the largest group for viewing online porn is ages 12 to 17. And you know, because some of you were 12 to 17 when you first saw it. Okay? And now you guys know, like you said, when I saw it too when I was little on cable, you know, I was like, wow, that looks good. And parents don't talk about sex education. Who's teaching sex education to our children? Come on, the majority, it's the porn industry. And what are they teaching? What are they teaching? Come on, you guys. Gagging, you know, gagging with the penis and forceful penetration and calling the girls names. Feminist porn is not the majority. I represent the majority. And you guys are definitely viewing United States pornography. I know because I keep statistics on my site, and you guys always find my site. You guys, if you care about the children, at least help the Prime Minister block porn. That's really our main reason we came here, is that you guys would get behind and say, at least block porn. You can still have your porn if you want it so bad, after everything we've talked to you about. But I'm just appalled that not only do they not care about the children, which as a mother of 3 I can relate to, but the fact that you would even clap for that is very disheartening to me. You guys are better than that.
I'm going to give you 2 stories. So I'm really having a hard time even saying that children could even, the proposition is even saying that that's acceptable. I mean, I just want to cry out and bawl. But do you think that Tanya Flint Vega would say that? She was sexually abused by her father, Larry Flint, the creator of Hustler. This is her book about her whole story. So she was exposed as a child. She was sexually abused as a child by porn. Pornography destroyed her life, and she wrote a book about it. Who was protecting her? I mean, are you going to say it's okay for Tanya Flint Vega to see it when she was a child and being exposed to all the stuff that her father put onto her? And my boyfriend, the reason I lost my relationship, he was exposed to only soft-core porn in Playboy magazines at a friend's house. And it completely changed him into somebody I had never, ever known. That's the reality of what you're exposing kids to. And because of it, it's destroyed so many lives, including mine. So I take offense to that. Protect the children.
No, I would not want children to see a great deal of what goes out in terms of porn. The problem is we're talking about a period of life when children experiment. What I know from having worked with having had a couple of my own, or one stepdaughter and one other, it's hard enough keeping them off the alcohol, and that is with grounding and locking of cupboards and God knows what else. And if the whole of adult life is to be managed or judged on the basis of stopping the child from getting past locked cupboards, then there's not going to be much adult life left. I'm going to make a slightly esoteric argument, because people keep saying, what is it about porn that says it does a good public service? And the problem I had was, when I arrived here, I was happy to defend its existence. I find it difficult to say that it performs a good public service, because I'm not sure that anything performs a good public service in this country. So there's the cynic in me. The esoteric argument is that actually having it where it is, it forms a sort of barrier against even worse, because we are having an argument from the other side about, look at the worst that could happen, and the worst that could happen is this, and the worst that could happen is people that die, and the worst that could happen so on. And if you do that for any industry, and you judge anything on the basis of the worst that could happen, my God, you're in the pits. And the point is that the two worst things that could happen are, firstly, we are importing a different culture and a different view of what our morality ought to be. And we're doing that without even knowing it. I've spoken to the PR people at B-Sky B, who control what you have access to over public nets. They don't even know what their filters block, because they have subcontracted it to the states. And if you're happy that what you see is filtered by people in the states who are not answerable to anybody, fine, I'm not. Second, porn provides, or the internet porn industry provides, a barrier against something far worse, and it's something that hopefully I shall be writing about shortly. Some people in the audience will have heard of the dark net. This is something else for which one can thank American security. It is the internet which isn't on the internet. It's the internet which can't be patrolled, and that is where the nasty stuff is going. It's going onto virtual private networks and the dark net. And the more we control the internet, the more you are creating a criminal network off the net. So if you want to talk about the worst, then the worst, if we follow through these controls, is a totally uncontrolled net. Is that what you want?
My question is, taking, aside, the paedophilia, all of that, which is obviously the horrible, horrible stuff, and we don't want that to happen, in terms of, the majority of people, not the minority of people who are going to go and do all these things, does it provide a public service for the majority? That is, I think, really at the heart of what this question is. Does it provide, at least for the majority of people, some, release, some escapism? I don't know.
I believe I may have answered the gentleman's question earlier when I said that one indisputable good of pornography from the point of view of the consumer is that after looking at some porn, the general result is a wank, a sandwich, and a good night's sleep, which I think is generally beneficial to those who feel the need for it.
You don't need porn, don't wank.
True. You don't need chocolate on your ice cream either, but it can be nicer with it.
Right there. I want to hear his question.
Thanks for getting all the time. There were two of the sides, but I believe why not to make the porn industry like fair way of making money? For example, this side can provide rights and protection to women who want to work with this, and this side can provide employability in the future. Anyway, if we have more open-minded and not this open society, for example, across the internet, the biggest thing I saw is porn. Like this pathetic society and think right, porn. Why? Why say rights? Why they don't, be writing on words, rights, debate, why on the floor? Why we do emphasis on this? Why not never cut down everything, never
Women in porn don't have any rights. Okay, they don't know when they're on set in a private location that if they get exposed to bodily fluids, that the pornographer has to send them immediately to the doctor. That's the law in the United States. Remember, you're viewing our porn, 90%. And so they pay for their own doctor. They have to pay for their own STD testing. They have to pay for everything. They have no employee rights whatsoever, and they are employees, which has been defined by Los Angeles and California. And I just want to add that that in the United States there's only 2 states it's even legal to produce pornography. It's only legal in California and New Hampshire. The other 48 states, it's prostitution. And I looked under some of your prostitution laws, and your states that a woman can be a prostitute, but when there's 2 or more, that's an offense, so it's illegal in your country too. You need to check out your laws.
Well, I would probably agree. I would probably agree with the questioner, because really this boils down to a couple of disagreements between proposition and opposition. It is the vile conditions in which people are employed. I take you back still to the Bangladesh example, where people are employed in vile conditions. That should stop. And the question, I guess, that I would ask of the American side of this is not why you're not applying your indecency laws, but why are you simply not applying your employment laws? The fact is there are employment laws that say this should not be happening. It shouldn't be happening. Second, in terms of imagery, yes, there is vile imagery there, but that vile imagery is spread throughout society. Therefore, again, I go back to where I started, which is why is it that porn specifically is the problem? I think, as Zach says, it is a diversion. This is the bit where I realised I hadn't realised it was 2 minutes, and I was thinking I'd get away with a bit shorter, so it's maybe a slightly shorter speech. A large part of what the opposition have put down is an appeal to the worst. They've talked about trafficking, which is evil. They've talked about child abuse, which is evil. They've talked about bad working conditions, which are spread across the world and are wrong and evil where they occur. None of these are specific to pornography. All of them are things we should be working against. Likewise, misogyny, the degrading of women, abuse and violence against women. And I'm sorry, but it happens explicitly in porn, but look at Hollywood output. Look at the subtext of the imagery and the narrative that goes on in almost every film that comes out of mainstream Hollywood, and look at all the murders and the violence and so on that comes out of that. Now, which is influencing society more, which is sending more powerful messages? And my suspicion, in terms of mass media, is that Hollywood is sending at least as powerful a message. So the question again and again and again is, why pornography? Not that it doesn't do these bad things. I absolutely agree it does bad things. I am simply saying that it's not up there in the top of the list. Early this week, I spoke to a young woman. She had been a victim of sexual violence. She uses erotica, she reads erotica, she looks at porn. Is it because of what she has suffered? She doesn't particularly think so. Has she been brainwashed by the patriarchy? I'm not really sure. And in the end, I think trying to sort of suggest that is arrogant, it's insulting, it is self-defeating. Because in the end, I have faith in individual women, and I have faith in the fact that survivors will come through, and that if they say that they have agency in something, oh God, then they have. Is that the end of it? Right.
want to real quick address that issue about the Hollywood thing. Hollywood releases 400 movies a year versus 11,000 movies that the porn industry releases. I was in front of the camera more than any Hollywood actress ever was. We're much better liars. But let's get back to the children. My heart's so broken over protecting children. It's not a big deal to block porn, you guys. You can still have your porn if you love it so much, but at least think about the children. And I was a little girl. I was also subject to pornography, and it led me into porn. And I was only there for about a year and a half, and I caught 2 sexually transmitted diseases. One of them was non-curable. And I had to have half my cervix removed because I had cervical cancer. That was the truth. I lost 4 babies. I really paid a big price for porn that I was not informed of. So my heart says, listen, if you guys want your porn, at least support a legal industry that informs its workers. Hey, these are high-risk multiple sex acts that you're going to do. None of us are informed. These are mostly 18, 19, 20-year-old girls who think it's glamorous. But the truth is, porn is not glamorous. And I really hope that after hearing this tonight, that you'll support something better than this industry. You guys don't need porn. You don't need to waste your life going masturbating to porn. You're better than that. You're smarter than that. There's planets to explore. There's all these amazing things you can do with your life. Books to write, songs to sing, politics, all kinds of things. Why waste your time viewing pornography? Well, obviously it hurts children, and for sure it hurts the women that are in this industry. Jenna Jameson, porn queen, she'll tell you the same thing I just told you. Okay? Porn does nothing but destroy lives. And if you want to click on porn, then you are contributing to the modern-day slave trade. You are contributing to sex trafficking.
Plenty of opportunity to ask all the panel whatever you want. So, it was tough, but I'm going to award the bottle of wine this week to the boy in the blue jumper. I don't know your name, but you can stop. Well done. On what is stopping the porn industry from being brought down. So, the final vote is on the merits of the arguments you've just heard. You cannot abstain. You can either go for or against, but nothing else. So, hands right in the air if you're going to vote for the proposition. Right up so I can see really clearly.
Okay, guys, I promise I won't keep you for any longer than a minute. Just one or few more things. Firstly, some thank yous. Firstly, thank you, Amory Building, for not catching on fire. The amount of paperwork I'd have to have filled out for that would not have been good. Thank you to Jack, who I'm sure you've all met, our Vice President, who kept refreshing the screen throughout the week. Thank you to Emily Cobb, who is sitting there in a white T-shirt. She runs a fabulous little photography business and has taken photos of our debate, so thank you, Emily, that's really kind. Thank you to her campus and expose, who we've welcomed to this debate, and thank you, obviously, all of you lot for coming. Before you go, see you on Sunday. If this is the sort of thing you'd love to see every week, and it is like this every week, though this particular debate is probably of the like we will never see again, it is as fiery and as controversial as this every week. See you on Monday. It's in the Queen's Building. It's our free champagne social. We're going to have a little bit of a workshop and a bit of a few games first, and then on to that. See you Friday for Katie, where she's going to be here. One more thing. We're now going to go to the pub to Monkey Soup with our fabulous speakers. Please come and get your I Love Masturbating t-shirt. See you next week. Thank you. Dr. Shelley would like you to know that there's a selection of free gifts for anyone who would like them. All free. Thank you, Dr. Shelley. seen, well, I didn't think I'd have a problem of worrying about health and safety of too many people. But I'm absolutely delighted to see that it came with so many people enjoy it. And I think I'm fascinating. These guys there hang out. Oh, I don't know. We've got these options next it would be fabulous to see you on Sunday. On Monday evening, we have our first debating workshop. It's just going to be a bit of fun, whether you've debated lots before or whether you're new to debating. Please come along. And if that wasn't enough to entice you, we've got some free champagne for all our members afterwards. And there's a lot of champagne because it's currently in my house. And I'm resisting temptation. On Wednesday, if you fancy playing some sport for DebSoc, whether it's DebSoc United football team or for the ladies we have netball, speak to Jonathan, who's my wonderful vice president, and he will sort you out with some football. And then on Friday, same time, same place, and hopefully just as busy, we have our next debate. And I'd just like to tell you what that is. This House believes Mrs. Thatcher was a global force for good. Let me tell you, you may have to bang again. Who knew Mrs. Thatcher caused quite such excitement? Just so you know who's on the panel, we have Alison Seaback MP. She's the MP for Plymouth, a Labour MP. I'm sure you'll love speaking to her and perhaps having a drink with her afterwards and securing your summer internship. We have Nigel Costley from the Trade Union Coalition. He's very high up, a very senior trade unionist, and he is a fab speaker, very passionate and a very important man. Then we have local celebrity and man with a moustache, Percy Prowse. He's a Conservative local councillor, but you will see him during your time at Exeter. He's got a penchant for Hawaiian shirts, and he does some fairly extraordinary speeches and will be well worth coming. And finally, a lady who probably needs no introduction, but I'm very excited to tell you who's coming to speak. Goodness me, ladies and gentlemen, thank you all so much for coming. Next year we'll probably need a bigger room. I hope you're all not too uncomfortable, and particular apologies to the people behind me who don't have a pleasant view at this moment in time. My name is Scott, and I'm lucky enough to be the president of this wonderful society. And I promise that I won't speak for any more than 3 minutes, because I know you're not here to see me. You're here to see these amazing speakers. We've been going since 1893, and this is our first all-woman panel. So that alone, I think... just would like to go through very quickly what's coming up with DebSoc over the next week, if PowerPoint lets me. On Sunday is your chance to sign up. We'll be in the Great Hall. Please do come and see us. And if you enjoy this evening and you'd like to learn more about debating, meet some of the fabulous speakers that we have, attend some of our fabulous socials, and maybe learn to debate yourself. She's been in the news a lot recently for her disagreements with Holly Willoughby over baby names. Katie Hopkins is coming to DebSoc. She may be even more divisive than Mrs. Thatcher, it seems. But, you know, I'm sure she'll be fabulous to watch speak. I'm sure you'll have all sorts of questions for her. Please do come along. That's my 3 minutes up. It's my turn to hand over to Ellie Binks, our chair. Please enjoy the debate, and thank you again so much for coming. Lovely to see you.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to our